welcome to my Van Life Perspective podcast. My name is Tasha, aka Miss Kev, and welcome to episode 2. So, I actually previously recorded episode 2, but because I decided to integrate video, we are here now, which is pretty awesome. So, you can watch the video format on YouTube, my channel, which is Miss Kev, and yes, MISSKIFF. I'm really excited for episode 2. This is going to be a part 2 of episode 1. And episode 1, I introduced myself to the channel, to the podcast. And it's really, really awesome that we had 26 people tune in, which was to my surprise. And the whole point of this podcast is that I record in my van remotely. And yeah, I think I've upgraded my setup a little bit, which is really cool. So, episode 1 was kind of introducing me to the podcast, and like I said before, I really love that there was people tuning in already. And to my surprise, there's people from the UK, South Africa, Canada, and America that tuned in. So, shout out to all of you that listened. So, yeah, we're going to kick off episode 2. And this is just basically talking about when I bought my van. I've lived in the van. So, what is it like living in a van whilst converting it? Should you do it? Should you not? And then, how was city van life? Is it for you? And then, working a job whilst living in the van that's in a fixed location. So, there's quite a lot to dive into. So, we're going to look at living in the van first whilst converting it. So on the 8th of July, I decided, do you know what? I need to live in this van for various reasons. I just wanted to be independent. It was also the heart of summer. That's why I bought the van when I did, because I can convert it bit by bit before the winter. So the first thing I needed was a bed, because I was working in a care home and sleeping on like hard wood in the van with all my belongings. You can look at my website, my YouTube channel for these early episodes. And I literally had no budget whilst converting it. So the first thing I would say is, would I recommend living in your van and converting it? No, because you can't really do the steps that you want to do unless you have the money. So I had no budget. I bought my van. I literally had no budget, and I was it was challenging. It was really challenging. I didn't have a space where I could convert it. So when you're living in it, you can't do everything in a methodical approach. You can't go, right, I'm going to insulate the van, I'm going to build this first, I'm going to build that first, it's going to be this and this and that. It's more about, what do I practically need first? So for me, I practically needed, okay, I need a subflooring because I need to build a bed. Great. I half finished my insulation on the sides. And my van build actually was in bits. As soon as I get some money paid at the end of the month, awesome, let me start to build something. So if I can remember clearly, yes, no, this was it. I knew the winter was coming. So I went to a Van Life Eats festival and I met a lot of people. And this is kind of where my van life journey really, really stood out to me, because it was the community of people that I had. I didn't have a place where I could um, convert my van. I had to just do it as and when, at whatever location I could find. I could build my van. So I remember I had like drawers, plastic drawers. My bed was fine. But then I was like, right, the winter's approaching. I need a roof. I don't know how to drill into metal. I don't have any tools. I ended up going up to, so I met everybody. This is for me, my pinnacle van life build journey was converting it, was Van Life Eats Festival. And I met Liam the Terrible because we followed each other on Twitter. And then I was like, okay, who's this guy? I saw that he's actually quite a big YouTuber. So I was like, cool. I could trust him in that way. And then he does like loads of van builds etc., because that's his business at the moment. And he watched one of my videos and he said to me, Tasha, why don't you come up to um, Sheffield and I'll show you like how to do it. So for me, I wanted to learn myself. So I got to insulate the roof next. So it was subflooring, bed, a little bit of the walls, but I didn't do any tongue and groove yet. And then I did my roof. So I had to buy 5 millimeter plywood for the top, and he showed me how to cut it and how to drill into metal with buttons as well, which was pretty awesome. And that was, I had to drive 3.5 hours. So I had a choice of going into different places, but I didn't really feel comfortable with people and I needed to think about my safety as well. People are still people in the world. So then from Van Life Eats, I met this guy called Darren who told me about South Central Van Bold. And then he said, come over, we're having a meeting in October, bring your diesel heater and we'll help you install it. And then from that meeting Darren, he invited me into the Facebook group where Alex sold me my secondhand solar panel and a MPPT controller. And then my friend Simon, he that I met from Van Life Eats, he landed up telling me like literally a list that I needed to buy for my electrics. So from that, I knew that was in August. I knew, right, this is what I need to save. This is what I need to get. So each month I was having this bit by bit. So I ended up doing the installation of my roof in Sheffield, and then I painted my roof in the Peak District, um, which is quite awesome. And then I put up these little, like just to decor it, because I got myself this kind of sheer white curtains, um, but then by then I was camping in 8 degrees in the Peak District. And as you can imagine, starting to get really cold. So I was in like a short period of time, within like a month, I needed I needed to complete my van build because it started to get very cold very quickly. And I needed that diesel heater installed. So I landed up going to the South Central van build. All my electric stuff didn't arrive in time, so I only got to really do. I learned how to do my own tongue and groove walls, which I did by myself with the help of my friends and their tools, and it was just incredible. Like it was great just to have finally walls put up. I've got my roof. And then the van started to take a little bit of a shape. And then the next thing I needed to do was, right, I need to install this diesel heater. And I ended up going into the Isle of Wight. So my van build's been like all over the show. But this is what it is. It's that basis of community that has given you access to resources, which has been pretty cool. All I can say now is that it during that van build experience, people said to me, like, if you had to ask me by choice, would I ever do this over again where I'm living in the van plus converting it? My answer would be no, because I still don't have vinyl flooring on my floor. I actually have to now redo it where the subflooring, I didn't have access to how to cut pieces. So I've got missing floors on each side of the van, which is quite interesting. But for me, what was more stressful is more working whilst you're living in the van in a city. So being fixed in the city was stressful, because you had to be super stealth. It's you staying up longer than you needed to. So being in the city is cool because you got access to, the gym, shower, all that good stuff, which is great. That's what I do love about being in the city. And I have my own business, which I am part of, the Startup Studio, which is USW graduate. You get access to the Startup Studio if you have a business idea and they accept you. And this is all in Wales, by the way, Cardiff. And what I loved is that the co working space acted as like my central hub of me working. So I was just constantly, I went from work to work, which, if I reflect back on it, it was good because it pushed me to continue to work to grow my business, which I did. And I got more money to make myself more self employed now, which is all part of the investment, of course. But it was challenging because you've got sleepless nights being in the city, people roaming around your van, not necessarily wanting to break into it, but more about like there could be a fight outside your van. Because I was renting a car parking space just to be close to where I was working for £80 a month. And you hear noises at 4 o'clock in the morning. So your sleeping is on fight or flight mode. And I think this is where, for me, city life became a bit too much, where you're constantly sleep deprived, and you don't get to live in your van, because you're being super stealth. I must admit, I must have wasted a lot of diesel money building the van, but I got to experience because I used it as like a road trip. So I needed to escape the city. So I was like, right, okay, it's work 4 days a week, work on my business. Then it's like, right, get in your van and go on a mission. You got a little bit of money, dive into that little bit of money, which is like literally 200 to 300, £400. Use some for diesel, use some for the van conversion. And I forgot to say, actually, prior to in the summer, I needed to spend a lot of money on the mechanics. So I spent about £400 on the mechanics first. Say, for instance, if each month was um had to include van build, I had to also use some of that money for the van mechanics. Because when I first bought this van, it was a disaster, really. The the indicator, I mean, the lights had to be switched off. No, the hazards had to be switched off by the lights being turned on so that the battery doesn't go flat. You have to dislocate the battery. Um, and there was also cobwebs, and there was a top mount that needed to be fixed. Wheel bearing after that needed to be fixed. Brake pads, all the good stuff. So I had to fix all the necessities first so that I can drive the van places. And then I needed to convert. Okay, I needed a bed. So it was like, right, mechanics, bed, then insulation, winter's coming, and then teddy bear blankets. So, and the last thing I focused on was storage. So I built these shelves behind me, which, to be honest with you, someone commented on one of my videos going, "Is this a joke?" And I was like, I wasn't quite offended because I was like, yes, I don't know how to make a shelf, but I'm just playing around because I know how to use tools. So I would definitely say that if you're thinking of converting a van, do it, because it's actually, you don't realize how much you can achieve. Know how to use You learn how to use tools, and you learn soon how you don't have that skill set to build cupboards and things like that. And unless you got a workshop, then it would be a lot more easier. So for me, what was quite interesting is that my friend said to me, Tasha, you will more than happy go and buy like bathroom cabinets or kitchen cabinets and install that in the van. It will be much easier for you. And I did. I bought um, Amazon, both my kitchen cupboard and my storage cupboard. I bought off Amazon, which was like about £80 each. So for the time it would have taken me to build that with no workshop and no skill set, no tools, it wasn't just worth it for me. So yeah, that was basically it for the van build. And that took 6 months, at least 6, 7 months, um, of just pure hustle. And then March came, and March was mechanic season because my MOT is due. I put £600 into the mechanic and then another £900 into the mechanics. So there's still bits and bobs that needs to still be done, of course. I did carpet a lot of the van because just materials, you know what I mean? Like I just needed to get some type of, I was sick of seeing silver. If you've converted a van, you know seeing silver is the worst because that's the insulation. It's just annoying. Um, but yeah, it was very challenging because I was burnt out converting my van, and in an ideal situation, I would have a workshop. I would rent it. Like I would actually go to a farmer and I would say, "Hey, can I rent um a space for 6 months? I'm converting my van. I just need a space that is remote and can I rent it?" And that's what I would do next time. I definitely want to buy a high top van. As much as I do love the van, um, it is because I tend on being in the van for another at least 2 years. I feel like I would need a bit more space because I enjoy cooking standing up. Where in here like it's constantly you moving things around. And yeah, I still want to build some storage in the van. Like I'm still going to invest in a bit more of the build over the summer because that's what I did. I decided, okay, cool. I've had enough of van life in the city. Um, where I'm constantly exhausted. I'm constantly in fight or flight mode. I'm constantly stressed. What can I do? So this is a bit of an intro into how I make money. For the next episode is all about money. But in this episode, city van life became tough because you're not because you have to be so stealth. If you look at my YouTube video, I don't really do a lot of city van life videos because I had to think about my safety. I need to think about, listen here, I'm a female in the van. How is it being in the city? And it's really, really challenging. Um, I've really it got to me mentally at some point, especially when the van wasn't from about January to March because the van had to go through a heavy mechanical process, and I actually then didn't have the money coming in February. I only had a little bit of money coming in because I've converted into being self-employed. Um, my previous job just didn't work out. It was a mutual decision. And I was like, right, I either have to get a remote job that's £500 a month to help me buffer for all the van stuff and amenities that I need paying, and I need to be self-employed. Now, in the grand scheme of things, I could have got a job to help this, but my mental health was really couldn't deal with working for another employee. It was just too much for me. So this is where I was in a massive transition phase of like, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? And I think once you've been in the city for a while in your van, you will know when it's time to leave. The whole point of just being fixed for that point was I'm converting it, who cares? It's only short term anyway. So I had to think about what am I going to do next? And that's where I got tagged from being in a van life community. Um, Someone watched my YouTube video and tagged me on Facebook to this campsite looking for van lifers. And it's 10 to 20 hours a week. You can literally live in the summer from May to September. And that's when I thought to myself, this is the opportunity I needed. I really need it. So there's actually a video that I keep referring to because this was my pinnacle video of like, what am I doing with my life in January? And I went to the Brecon Beacons, went to go cold water, swim in the waterfalls. And I had the moment after that going, I need to choose. If I'm going to stay in the city, I need a rent. It's just so much easier being in a rented property in the city than it is living in a van full time, in my opinion. Maybe a high top would be better. Maybe, I think, possibly. Um, or maybe it's the fact that I'm not a city girl. You either are a city person or not. And I grew up in a town, so that could basically be it. And it actually ironed itself out. I am now working in a campsite, and what's great is I can finish the van build and whatever I need to do. I've got a leak in my van that it needs fixing. I need to declutter my van at some point. I've already lost things 10,000 times. But yeah, that's mostly it's how I'm kind of here. And what's really made me realize is that it's really good for my mental well being. Being in this campsite, it's the freedom that I've always wanted, because my dream was to be able to do podcasts like this, um, and produce music from the van. Yeah, ideally, like um, I wanted to work here, and the whole like my whole situation is, how do I fund my van life experience? Because you need money to be able to travel, because I want to travel in my van. You need money to be able to continue this awesome independent journey, but there is obstacles, massive obstacles. I still didn't have a fridge. I still don't have extra power, which is so necessary in the summer. Um, and that's kind of a whole nother episode that I want to get into. But I love the fact that I'm now in this moment where I've gone through chapter two. Chapter one is getting the van. How do I get this van? Taking that leap of faith. Chapter two is, right, I got to convert this van with no skills, no money, no resources, don't know what I'm doing, but I did it. Which, for me, if you're looking to do this, I 100% say go for it. And converting it yourself, people go, yeah, they'd rather let someone else do it. But I found it a very empowering experience of how much you can do by yourself anyway. And then it's that money aspect now of like, okay, now I'm in the van. What type of lifestyle do I want to live? How do I want to define my van life perspective? And I think for me, my van life perspective is, I want to be able to be creative in my van. I want to be able to cook in my van, love nourishing meals, um, love meeting people in the van, creating my podcasts and videos, obviously from the van, DJing from my van, and then I want to travel, of course. So I'm going to be taking my van back to the city after September, and I'm going to be going through a whole situation with the mechanics, and then I'm going to start to travel with the van. So ideally, I'm going to take it up to Scotland and try to push it through to Europe. Because if the van can cope with that, then I'll be very, very happy. So yeah, if the van can cope with traveling, then I will keep my van as long as possible. Because I don't really need much, to be honest. I do feel like I've got exactly what I need right now. There's a few bits and bobs that I would like to do. I'd like to fit in a sink and a um like some speakers or something would be pretty cool. But everything I need is literally already in the van. I've got my electric sorted now. Thanks to some generous help that I've just recently had, I've been able to overcome that bigger obstacle that I needed. Um, so yeah, I definitely feel that the journey of my van life is really dif- dictated by how much I can continue to improve my financial circumstances throughout the summer. And like for me, I'm trying to save in like blocks of £500 per like a road trip. And the bigger ones like abroad and stuff is like per thousand, per 1,500 type of thing. So for me, it's trying to now get into that next level of, okay, I'm here now. What do I need to, like, I'm here in chapter three, campsite living, and working remotely in the van. What does that look like? How am I going to make my dreams come true? How am I going to continue this journey of me living in a van? And it's coming up to my 1 year. This Saturday is going to be 1 year since I've purchased my van, which is for me, I made it. Like, I made it 1 year in this van. Can we believe it? So that wraps up episode two of my van life perspective. I really hope this gives you a little bit more insight. If you want to learn more about the emotional roller coaster, the challenges, the van build, everything, go a bit more into detail. You can look at my YouTube videos. Series is from dating from about July until um, March, April of 2023. You'll see it there. And yeah, I am now in the south of England working on a campsite, recording this episode from there, which is pretty awesome. Like, this is my dream come true. So yeah, if you have liked this episode, please do follow me. Please do rate it and share your comments. I'd love to hear where you're listening from. For those of you who do that, I will send you a special designed by me sticker, my van life perspective, and please do follow me. I do loads of live updates on my Miss Kif underscore on Instagram and on YouTube, which is Miss Kif. A lot goes on in the community page. Like I said, you can see this video edit on my YouTube channel, and you can also um, follow me on other socials as well. But to be honest with you, I'm mostly engaged with Instagram and YouTube at this stage. And then the last thing is, how can you support my podcast? If you do like hearing about my journey, I would highly recommend you look at my Patreon account, which is patreon.com, I think, / Miss Kiffner, Kiffner. And I am going to podcast supporter pledge for my Soul Tribe members. And yeah, just that gives you a bit more insight as to what episodes are coming next, how can you get more involved. That will be a great aspect to, if you do like the podcast, please do support me, and so I can continue doing more episodes. And then also do check out my misskiff.co website, which is a little bit more information. I do have Eat Kiff Love, which is all about food and wine and spas. So if you're interested in that, there's a section on there, but that gives you more inside what I do. Um, yeah, I do a lot, so I keep building, keep building. That's the key here. Just keep building and driving forward. And for me, I'm a creative person, so doing this podcast, doing YouTube, doing music, it just fulfills all my creative needs. I maybe spend a bit too much time on this in comparison to my business at the moment. I'm trying to balance that out. Anyway, I hope you've really enjoyed this episode. Like I said, check you out on other episodes. This will be coming out every 2 weeks. So I'm looking to get this launched this week. And then episode 3, which were all about how do I make money living in the van. And we will go a bit deeper as to what I do for a living. Um, and then also your mindset about money as well, which is really important. Okay, if you like this episode, you know what to do, and I'll see you in the next episode. This is my van life perspective. You're listening to Miss Kiff.